Welcome nerds and gamers of the internet, this is SirBastian doing a mod review Monday. With us all waiting eagerly for Civilization 6 to be released, I thought I would help you fill this wait with a Civilization mod, the Prehistoric Era. The Prehistoric Era mod gives you a whole new era before the Ancient Era, before you have even discovered agriculture. Starting in 7000 BC, you will discover many new technologies and resources, and build a whole selection of new units, buildings, and even wonders. Technology. As you may have guessed, for a new era mod, there are many new technologies to be discovered. You start the era with simple tools which provides you with the technology to create your first wonder, the Theopetra cave, your first building, and your first units. It also, like many of the technologies you will discover in the prehistoric era, reveals a resource you take for granted in vanilla, in this case being stone. You can start the game by researching complex tools, which leads on to hunting and then to scouting, or by researching fire, which leads to cooking, and then tool specialization and harpooning, or you can research gathering, which leads to social structure and language, warfare and leadership. In this mod, I really enjoyed how much the tech tree branched out, and how the differing trees did not have any specific focus. For example, if you wanted the best military, you'd have to research the more tools side of the tech tree to get archery, and the more social side to get warriors and savages. A further thing I liked about the technology in the prehistoric mod is how they brought technology like archery that was in the ancient era in vanilla into the prehistoric era, which to me made more sense, as in real history, hunter-gatherers used bows long before they built farms. Finally, not only is the prehistoric era being created in this mod, but the ancient era has also been adapted to continue revealing resources like silk, spices and gems by adding in new technologies in the ancient era like trading, mineralogy and numbers. Overall, the technology, as you would expect, was in my opinion very expansive and well polished in this mod. Resources. There are 3 new strategic resources in the prehistoric era that give you food and production. These are flint, obsidian and berries. These resources and all the vanilla resources are revealed on the map as you discover new technologies, which I think is a really cool dynamic and gives you even more of a reason to make new settlements to get newly discovered resources. As well as this, outposts and foraging sites can now be built on strategic resources to increase the output, which I think is also a great new add, especially as you have to now wait a whole era to get to hunting camps. Units. There are 6 new units added in the prehistoric era mod: Autochthon, the primitive archer, the caveman, the shaman, the savage, the laborer, and the explorer. These units are discovered at very different technologies and have very distinct features. The primitive archer and the autochthon, the earliest military units you get, are very useful even when you've discovered archers and cavemen in which they upgrade to, as the primitive archer and the autochthon have no upkeep. However, they are very weak and both function more as melee units, as the primitive archer shoots only at adjacent tiles, and if it shoots a military unit it gets attacked, which for me was unexpected. The shaman is your first proper ranged unit, which like the primitive archer upgrades to be the archer we all know and love. The caveman and savage are your next military units you will discover, with savages having a bonus to taking cities, which is cool for prehistoric wars. The final units are the Labourer, which is, let's be real, a crappy worker, and the Explorer, a mounted upgrade for a scout. All the units can upgrade and so do not have to be disbanded, even the Scout, which is really great and something I was worried about when installing this mod. Finally, the new units' textures are very nicely modelled and very easy to differentiate, which I know is important to many people. Buildings. There are 9 quite unique buildings you unlock in the prehistoric era. These are the food storage, the chieftain's hut, the palisades, the campfire, the rock paintings, the shelter, the midden, the fire pit, and the causeway. What is interesting and quite realistic about some of these buildings is that they go obsolete after certain technologies are discovered, giving a new element to the game, making you wonder even more if it is worth to build certain things. But I also think it is a very clever idea, as it doesn't make you so strong going into the ancient era. The buildings have very varied uses, with the midden providing food, palisades, defense, and rock paintings culture, for example. And where there are similarities, the idea that one building might go obsolete provides that needed variety. Wonders. Wonders were a really nice surprise to this mod, as I did not think there were many wonders that were built in the prehistoric era. However, 4 very different wonders are buildable. These are the Wonderwork Cave, Jajanta Temples, Skara Brae, and the Theopetra Cave. The wonders are very useful, and in my playthroughs I have very often made the effort to build 1 or 2, although it is often dependent on where I settled, as wonders like Skara Brae only really help when you are near fish and sheep. Balance. So far, with the prehistoric era mod activated, we've had very balanced games, with nobody going into the ancient era with a distinct victory advantage, and rarely civilizations being destroyed in the prehistoric era, although it is possible with units like savages. We did find certain factions lost their advantages and gained new ones, however. Examples of this are the Polynesians, who unfairly and unrealistically can embark onto the sea before they've discovered how to build a bow or gather berries. An example of a faction that has lost out on a bonus is the Huns, who lose their starting with animal husbandry bonus. Finally, this isn't so much about balance, but if you're impatient like me, I would really suggest playing on a quick speed, as otherwise there are often periods of very little to do, even with the new improvements in buildings. Compatibility. The prehistoric era seems to run with most mods. What's nice is it works with the advanced setup screen mod, allowing you to play it in a hot seat with friends. The only mods we would not recommend is any mods that give you anything at the start, as it is likely to be too overpowered. Also, any mods that add resources we also do not recommend, as they will be revealed at the beginning, unlike the other resources which are discovered over time. So, if you're looking for a new start to your game with new resources, units, buildings and wonders, that does not change the vanilla eras too much, this is the mod for you, and deserves a Nerd to say ni 8 neat out of 10.